Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests joining us this morning.
Yes, indeed.
Some icons, some legends.
Man.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Welcome, brothers.
Thank you, man.
What's up?
Nice
Man,
to
how
be
many
here.
black suit shades and hats do y'all own, man?
Closet full, brother. Closet full, man.
That's the closet for.
Yeah, man. But it makes it easy, man, because we don't have to make those hard decisions about, what color we going to wear and all that kind of stuff.
Do y'all buy a lot of different suits and stuff, or do y'all just have a couple that y'all just clean?
Well, over the years, you just accumulate, bro.
Yes,
Or
it
lots
is
of hats,
accumulation.
lots
Totally.
of glasses, lots of suits.
Now, you guys
Absolutely.
written and produced for so many people in the industry, so I want to start from the beginning for people that don't know who Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis is and how y'all got started. So how did y'all get into the industry with producing and writing? How did y'all get together?
And before you say that, I want to say people definitely know your work, and you guys were like the soundtrack to our lives in here. So
Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for that. We're excited to have you.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to be here. This is a legendary show, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Now, when a
thank you.
legend says this is a legendary show, it means something.
It's a legendary show.
Okay.
This is a
We got to
legendary
look at their
show.
other interviews, make sure they didn't say that anywhere.
So how did y'all get started from the beginning? What got y'all into music? How did y'all meet?
So we met back, we were teenagers, junior high school, or middle school, I guess it's called now, but junior high school back in that day. And we met in a summer program at the University of Minnesota.
Upward Bound. right?
Upward Bound, that's right.
Yep.
That's right. And it was peer teaching was the actual thing. It was about teaching kids like a grade below you math so that they would understand it better, hearing it from you than they would from a teacher. And when we met, I'll tell you, the first time I saw Terry Lewis, it was love at first sight. We were staying in dorm rooms, right? So Terry's sitting on the bed with a red, black, and green bass, and he's playing Kool in the Gang bass parts, right? And I'm like going, who's this brother? I got to get to know this dude. And I think he had the same feeling about me. He heard me playing the piano in the lunchroom, and he was like, oh, who's that dude?
Yeah, swooning a bunch of girls.
Yeah, allegedly.
Were you guys in
allegedly.
competition at first, or was it always friendly?
Well, what was funny was at the end of the year, we ended up playing. Terry was the one, I was a drummer at first, and Terry was the one that got me into playing keyboards because my dad played keyboards. He said, your dad plays keyboards, play keyboards. I'm like, cool. So I did it. But after that, we each put our own bands together. So I had a band called Mind and Matter. It was like a singing group, like a Philly-style singing group. He had a band called Flight Time, and Flight Time was more like, Parliament Funkadelic, like a funk type of thing.
Right.
We used to do Battle of the Bands all the time. And, there'd be Terry's band would kick my band's ass, and then the next time, my band would kick his ass. And it's like we were watching each other, but we were admiring each other. Even though we were competitive, we were like, nah, but we should just join up and do something. And that's
Wow.
what finally happened.
You know how rare, I'm not going to say rare, but that's one of the problems that people have nowadays. They see somebody that's just as good as them, and instead of coming together, they want to compete.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of respect for Terry because, it was funny because, like, literally, back in the movie Purple Rain, Prince kind of fictionalized it a little bit, but that was the way the competitiveness in the Minneapolis music scene was. There was maybe 2 clubs you could play at, but there's like 4 or 5 bands that all wanted to take that spot and play. So you always had to up your thing. And I remember we came out, we had our little suits and we did our little thing, and we kicked their butt. And the next time, man, they came out with full Parliament Funkadelic with a horn section, with wearing diapers and crazy stuff. And I was like, yeah, diapers. I mean, they had all kinds of. I swear to God,
What was the thinking behind
there's
that?
pictures. There's pictures. of it.
I've seen the Parliament Funkadelic pictures with the diapers on.
Oh yeah. No, that really existed. So, but I was just impressed that he was going to try to Terry was going to outdo us. And it was like, but I just respected that, man. And when we got together, it was great.
Yeah, well, nobody was trying to outdo you.
Yeah.
It's just you caught us on a bad time. Like, we had lost some pieces and then we weren't all there.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
So you catch me on a bad day, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
And Morris Day still,
Definitely.
because obviously he just put his book out,
Yeah.
and he was up here. He was talking about you guys as well. So what's the relationship with Morris Day?
As great as it could possibly be.
That's right.
That brother
He's a
looked
brother for
out.
sure.
Yeah, man. He looked out for us in so many ways. And one of the ways I always remember is back when the time got together, and Terry and I had started kind of branching off and trying to do some productions and different things. And he told everybody in the group, he wasn't against it. He was like, no, that's great what they're doing. He told everybody in the group, go out and figure out what you want to do because this group thing ain't going to last forever. So he said, I'm going to take some acting lessons. I want to try to get into do some acting. Jimmy and Terry are doing their production stuff. Everybody figure out something to do. And at that point in time when we decided that's what we're going to try to do is production, a lot of the other guys didn't do that. They just kind of didn't listen to what he said. But Morris laid it out for everybody. He said, man, this band is not going to last forever. So we just listen to what he said, and we respect him to death. He's amazing.
I feel like y'all whole lives, all y'all have done is eat, sleep, and hit music. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
yeah.
That and raise kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even when y'all were kids, I feel like music was always on y'all mind, and you kind of, reinforced that for me just by saying y'all were playing instruments even way back then.
Yeah, way
well,
back.
it was at that point either athletics or music. So you were running some ball, whatever kind of ball, or you were playing music.
Who got y'all started?
School.
Yeah.
Yeah. My uncle actually played guitar, and then my stepfather played guitar, and he left a old guitar in the house with a couple strings broken. The top 2 strings were broken, so I ended up playing bass because that's all the strings that were left. So I ended up going to Montgomery Ward's back then. Y'all don't know nothing about that.
Montgomery Ward.
Yeah, man.
That airline bass.
Yeah, and bought myself a bass. Took me a lot of snow shoveling and grass cutting to get that bass, but I
When
bought
did you
my
guys
own
start
bass.
producing for other artists? When did that come? When did artists start calling and it became a thing? Like, I need this record from Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Well, nobody really called us. That was the interesting thing. So on the tour we were on, Terry said, I'm going to L.A. Who's coming with me? And I said, I'll go. Everybody else was like, this is back in the days of VCRs. Y'all don't know nothing about this, but like everybody was.
Really, young brother. Now.
That's how I watched Purple Rain on the VHS tape.
Is that right?
Yes.
Everybody was into VCR. That was everybody was saving their money to buy a VCR. And so we basically took what was our VCR money and got a plane ticket to L.A. And Terry said, they need us out there. And we ended up in the studio on this session for, I don't know, $50. I don't know what they paid us. Not a lot of money.
Yeah,
but it was
some chicken.
Yeah, we bought some Goldberg chicken.
Goldberg chicken.
$2.99, 4-piece special every day.
Yeah, and a strawberry.
And a strawberry, yeah. I mean, we didn't have any money, but it didn't matter. We figured it out. We got ourselves a little 4-track. We did some little demo stuff. But we got in the studio and we did this song called Bad Times. And that record actually, to this day, is like one of the biggest records that we ever did that nobody knows we did. But that was the thing that kind of got us started. And we kind of
Bad Times?
Yeah. I can't stand it. You can't stand it.
Okay.
Club record.
Yeah, club record. So we did that record. We worked with Ice-T. Ice-T was one of the first people we worked with. Cold Wind Madness. We did that. So that's back, the indie 12-inch days. And that's where we started. And the first call we actually got was Climax, the group Climax.
Oh, I love Climax.
Yeah. And Climax was cool, but what we did for them was their lead singer was a girl named Lorena, but when we heard the group, there was a girl named Joyce Irby in the group. And we were like, no, Joyce Irby should sing lead.
Damn
on
it,
this,
man.
right? So we had her come in and do lead. And then Bernadette we called her Bernadette because she reminded us of a female Morris Day. She had all this attitude and she was talking stuff all the time. And so we got her to take her songs and like, no, dude, that's the kind of stuff y'all should be doing.
Did y'all do the menopause?
We didn't do it, but we influenced it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because they did that on their own, and that was a cool thing about it was they played us their demos of that stuff. But the record company wasn't feeling that stuff. But we were like, no, that's what y'all need to do is have that attitude in that demo. And that's what they ended up doing. So we kind of taught them their ways around the studio and stuff. So it was good. That was kind of how we started off.
You think Morris Day's legacy gets overshadowed by y'all and Prince?
I don't think you can overshadow Morris Day, man.
No.
He is a figure in time that's gonna be forever, man.
Yeah.
Especially with Purple Rain, man. Him and Jerome together, man, is just outstanding.
People still doing the bird.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's the point, right? Like, in a lot of ways, he made the movie, but it's still considered a Prince piece.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, it is a Prince piece.
Yeah, it is.
But Morris is shining. Like, he shines through in spite of who Prince is. Doesn't matter.
And he's on your debut album.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That don't even sound right.
I know, right?
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis debut album in 2021.
Yeah.
What took y'all so long, I guess, to do a debut album?
Well, the story goes like this. Back when we were doing Control, which is 35 years old.
Classic.
Thank you. We were working on the Control album, but before we were working on the Control album, we had started a Jam and Lewis album. So the idea was we were going to do our own album. And then we got, they gave us the A&M roster, a guy named John McClain, who was the A&R person. He gave us a roster. Who do you want to produce on A&M? And we both said Janet. We want to do Janet. He said, you want to do a couple songs? We said, no, we want to do the whole album. He said, really? Okay, cool, right? So she comes up to Minneapolis. We do the whole Control album. He comes up, and like all A&R people, he listens to everything. We play him nasty, and When I Think of You and Control and Pleasure Principle, right? We're playing Funny How Time Flies, Let's
All
Wait a
those
While.
records you wrote and produced.
Like when I
all
tell
of
you
them.
classic
Yeah.
album to this day, you
So
can
we're
still
playing-
rock that and watch the videos.
Right. So we're playing all this stuff and we're going, okay, John, we're good, right? And he goes, like all A&R people, he goes, I just need one more. Like, what are you talking about, man? He said, I just need one more song. We said, nah, forget you. So we hop in the car and we're going to go grab a bite to eat. We put a cassette in. It's another
We know what those are.
keyword. Y'all got it? Okay. Let's make sure everybody's following along.
Gotcha.
So Terry puts a cassette in and he goes, John, listen to this. This is some stuff from our album. And it was just tracks, right? So the tracks are playing. And we're all grooving. About third song in, he goes, that's the one I need for Janet. We said, what are you talking about, John? He said, man, give that to Janet. If she likes to give it to her. We're like, what are you talking about? So the next day we go to the studio. Janet comes in. She's just sitting on the couch watching TV. We just put the song on. We didn't say anything. So we're watching her groove. She walks to the door. She kind of points to us. When the song goes off, she goes, who's that for? And we said, you if you want it. She said, oh, I want it. That song became What Have You Done For Me Lately?
I know he used to do nice stuff for you.
But what has he done for you lately?
He was just arguing about that album. What was it on social media a few months ago? Control versus Thriller.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I might lean towards Control.
Yeah.
I know Thriller's 75 million sold. I'm just talking
Right.
about musically. I might lean
And I
towards
think
Control.
for me as a woman, definitely Control.
Yeah.
Because that was definitely something like Nasty,
Yeah.
right? And you guys talked about making that song too. Janet Jackson was in the club. If you could tell that story, how Nasty came about.
Yeah, well, what happened with the project was before we even got started with the project with Janet, we just hung out with her and just spent time with her and just went to the movies, went to clubs, just hung out. And then she kept saying, when are we going to get started? And we said, we started. And we showed her lyrics to Control, like what we thought the lyrics to Control should be. And she said, oh, wait, this is what we were talking about. So we're going to just write about whatever we talk about? We said, yeah. And she said, oh, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that. So it got her involved in the creative process, which she hadn't been before. Nobody had ever asked her to be part of the creative process. So that was important. But yes, Nasty, we were in a club and some guys were kind of talking to her and stuff. We were watching and people were coming up to us going, is Janet okay over there? You guys? And we said, no, she's cool. She's cool. So anyway, these guys were messing with her, right? So she comes over to us afterwards and she goes, oh, those guys were so nasty. Why didn't you help me? And we were like, help you? You're here, right? Everything's good, right? And so you realize that she had grown up, around bodyguards and very protected and the whole thing. But that was part of what the album was. It was being in Minneapolis and being on her own. Yeah. And all of a sudden she felt like, oh, shoot, okay, well, now I'm going to talk about that. I don't like nasty guys. That ain't what I like. So anyway, that's kind of how the song happened. And so the album was very much her real life that was going on. Wow. And I always used to tell people, she didn't do a lot of interviews. I always say, anything you ever wanted to know about Janet, just listen to the album. It's all right there.
What was the mindset when y'all did Control? Was there something in your mind was saying, this is Michael's sister, so we have to make sure she's on par?
No, it was more like who Janet was. We always saw her as a little feisty entity, and when you saw her with the brothers, she was always really feisty, hand on her hip. And we wanted to bring that out in the music because that hadn't happened so far.
Yeah, it was strong and powerful for women, I think.
Yeah.
No, we wanted
especially
that.
At that time.
Yeah. No, we wanted that. That was the thing. That's what we were missing because her first two albums
were really good.
They were good albums, but they were all very soft, and there was none of that attitude. And actually, Jesse Johnson, our guitar player in the time, did a couple songs with her on the second album that had a little bit of that attitude, and we were like, that's what she needs. If we can bring that out of her, then we're good. So that was the plan. But, the neighborhood we lived in L.A., there was a street that we would walk down, and people's windows would all be open, and they'd be blasting whatever the jam was. Mm-hmm. And we walked down that street, and we just said, we want our song to be playing out of everybody's window. Wow. And I remember when Control came out, and we walked down that street, and we were hearing What Have You Done For Me Lately blasting out of everybody's house, and we said, yeah, we did it.
How do y'all stay so relevant, right? And the reason I say that is y'all been producing since the 80s to now. And you don't see that with no producers and no writers. You guys have been able to evolve. You keep your sounds. How do you keep your ears to, I want to say the streets or the clubs, or how do you keep your ears so relevant?
I think it's a couple of things, but the thing I would say is we never, first of all, our thing was when we did our very first interview when Control happened, we did a local interview with the paper up there, and the guy who was asking the questions, first thing he said is, man, y'all the hottest producers, man. How's that feel, man, to be the hottest producers? And we said, well, we really don't want to be the hottest producers. We want to just be warm for a long time. So when we said that, we meant that. We meant that the decisions we were going to make wasn't about trying to be hot or trendy or anything like that. It's like just try to make good music and try to do it for a long time. And by giving everybody their own sound rather than depending on one sound, that was part of the plan, and that was kind of the goal. But it was funny because a few years back when we did the Unbreakable album with Janet, that album opened at #1, and No Sleep was #1 for like 12 weeks or something, a single. And we asked us, the same dude asked us the same question. He said, man, you guys been around for 4 decades, man. You had #1s in 4 decades. How's that feel? And we said, remember what we told you the first time?
Wow.
Warm for a long time. And he just laughed. He was like, oh, okay, I guess so.
This generation will never understand that. This instant gratification era, they want to be hot for the moment.
Yeah.
You know, they'll never understand that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, too, goes back to just the era that we grew up in. We grew up in an era where there was no technology. So you had to actually learn your craft.
Right.
Yep.
You had to learn your instrument. And then the technology came about, and we embraced it. We're like, everybody would say, oh, drum machines. Nobody wants drum machines.
Right.
We just got into the drum machine.
Yeah.
And then all the other technology that came about, we always embraced it, whether it was digital recording or whatever. So we actually learned the craft. And then the other part of it is technically, when we got into the business, you couldn't touch like the boards or a microphone. You just go to the studio and sit at the producer's desk.
Yeah.
And then an engineer would do everything for you.
Wow.
But we actually had to learn from them. So we weren't in our bedroom. We weren't sequestered in our own little spot. So therefore, we absorbed all that information. So we are able to adapt no matter what the case is. If we don't have an engineer, we can engineer.
Well, we had an engineer walk out on us.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Matter of fact,
really?
we had an
Oh,
engineer
yeah.
walk out on us when we were actually working on Sherelle's album, the album with Saturday Love
I
on
didn't
it.
mean to turn you on.
Yeah,
Yep.
You guys-
yeah. So we were working in the studio. We had built our own studio. The engineer walked out. We didn't know how to do anything, and Sherelle was almost like the guinea pig, so to speak. Like we were plugging stuff in and blowing stuff up, and she's like, "That's okay, baby. That's okay. You'll figure it out." Well, anyway, when we figured it out, the very next album we did was Control.
But why did he walk out? Why did the engineer walk out?
It was a business dispute over what they thought they were bringing to the party. It was him and another guy.
Oh, they thought they was the producers. They was,
Well, no,
they
no,
was
no,
the ones
no.
making the magic.
No, it was a business deal. We bought
Yeah.
the studio.
Yep.
We bought the equipment.
Yep.
And they wanted to be partners.
Yeah.
And we did the math and was like,
We're not partners.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We're the business. We own the building and the equipment. How are you going to be 50-50 partners?
Yeah.
And y'all doing the music.
No,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
exactly.
And writing.
Yeah.
Kind of more work for hire, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can engineer and we're good.
Yeah.
How many people tried to get over on y'all? Two brothers that's producing these hits and was like, oh, they don't know. Try to give y'all oddball deals or lowball numbers. How many people try to get over on y'all in this industry?
Man, in the beginning, everybody.
Yeah.
So you just throw the contract behind the bed, man. You know? Pay no attention to that.
But the important thing for us that we had in our careers, besides common sense, I think we had that, a lot of that.
Yeah, that
But-
got us to
Yeah.
Clarence.
Yeah, Clarence Avant.
Yeah.
Clarence Avant.
The
When we
legend.
met Clarence Avant, the Black Godfather. When we met Clarence told us actually that the contract that our manager at the time was trying to negotiate for us to do the SOS band, and he said, now your manager wants this money for the SOS band, and we were like, oh, we can cut the budget, whatever you need. He says, cut the budget. He said, there's not enough money in here. You realize you got to fly to Atlanta to do the project, and you're going to need the studio time, and you're going to need whatever. He said, I'm going to pay you this because this is fair. So he actually paid us more than we were asking for.
Wow.
And that's how we knew. We said, oh, all right, this brother's got some different things. But he also told us a whole lot of great just life lessons about helping people out. He said, if you ever see anybody that needs my help, let them know. And the people we ended up helping out was L.A. and Babyface, who everybody
Morals.
thought was our, our competition. And maybe they were. We didn't think of it like that. We thought of, here's two brothers that need Clarence's help. And L.A. said, would you introduce us? And we said, absolutely. So we did. So those are the kind of lessons that Clarence taught us. Besides getting our business right, he definitely taught us life lessons.
How important is Clarence Avant? Because he's one of my top 4 inspirations, period. But
Absolutely.
how important is he to y'all and just the industry, period?
He's at the top of every list,
Yes.
especially for black people. Any
Yes.
deal that happened for any black person, whether it be Berry Gordy, whether it be Dick Griffey, Clarence has always been involved with all those deals. Jammin' Lewis, L.A. and Babyface,
Yep.
Dallas Austin,
Yep. Teddy Riley.
Teddy Riley,
Everybody.
because he would, untangle the mess because he had enough reach in
Yep.
relationships. And he's been immensely, he's like my pops.
Yeah.
He's my go-to guy for everything.
It's funny because I was just going to say every award that we've ever gotten, been the benefit of getting. We thank two people at the top. We thank God first,
And Clarence.
and then we thank Clarence, who's literally God on earth for us. He's our angel.
Now, flashing back to the SOS band, when you guys went to work with them, that's how you ended up getting fired by Prince,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So was that devastating for you at the time? Because
It was the worst day of our life.
Let's talk about it. It was a blizzard, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a blizzard. Well, no, it wasn't
it
no
wasn't a
blizzard.
blizzard.
That's the funny thing.
Everybody keeps saying it was a blizzard.
No,
he
well,
kicked y'all out
okay.
of the blizzard.
It was a blizzard in
In
Atlanta.
Okay.
It was, but we're from Minnesota, so for us, it was like what they call a dusting of snow.
Oh, got it.
You know when it snows a little bit and you could just take the broom and sweep it off?
yeah.
That's what it was.
they're not used to that.
Close the whole airport down. And y'all been to the Atlanta airport. It's crazy. It's terminal after terminal after terminal. We were trying to get on any plane to get out. We didn't even care where the plane was going. Like, just get us out of Atlanta so we can connect and try to get to San Antonio where the next time gig was. And at a certain point, we realized we weren't going to make it. But we had never missed a gig in our life. I remember when I first joined with Terry in Flight Time, he got in a car accident, and we were opening, I think, for Barcase and Switch or something. I can't remember
Cameo.
what it was. Cameo. Okay, we were opening for Cameo. And Terry was late, and everybody's going, where's Terry? And this is before the days of, like, cell phone, and you could just call everybody. And we were like, Terry walks in with a big bandage on his head. And we were like, what happened? He said, man, I got in a car crash. But he didn't miss the gig. And that was the thing, man. You never miss a gig. So for us to miss a gig, that was devastating enough. Plus, we knew Prince was going to find out about it. We didn't know the way. It was funny, though, in ironic fashion. So the day we get fired, right, we're at the studio thinking we're going to work on the Next Time album. Prince fires us. That same night, we had booked time to mix SOS Band. And so we said, okay, so after he fired us, we were like, okay, so we go to the other studio. We walk in.
Well, how did he fire you first? Did he call?
No, he said, no, okay, so he called us to Sunset Sound. He said, you guys meet me at Sunset Sound. We were like, okay, cool. And it was funny because when we first walked in, the accountant was there. And we said, oh, shoot, they're going to give us our last checks, right? But the accountant just walks by us and goes, hey, y'all have a good session. We're like, okay, cool, so we're good. We get in a little room, probably about kind of like this, and there's, it's Morris, Jesse, me and Terry, and Prince, the five of us in the room together. And Prince just goes, I told you guys not to produce other acts, and you produced the SOS Band, so you're fired.
Eek.
And I was like, cool. And I got up. I was out because it was nothing. I didn't feel there was anything I could say. Terry stayed in there for a little while and tried to reason with him.
What you say, Terry?
I was like, you fired us for that? Like, all we're trying to do is better ourselves. We have, talents that we want to let people share, and, when you try to make sense out of nonsense, you're stupid too.
Yep.
So that conversation went nowhere. So finally I got up and left too. We was outside kicking rocks.
Yeah.
Why did he think that was fair? God bless the dead. Why did he think that was fair to have y'all not produce for anybody else? What was his reasoning?
His reasoning was to control everything,
Right.
and that was it.
And he didn't.
There's no other reason.
And he didn't want us to give away the time sound, but we weren't doing that. That was exactly what we weren't doing. We were trying to go totally in the opposite direction. There were records we would work on and somebody would say, man, use that synthesizer like on, and we'd be like, no.
Can't do that.
No, we're going to know.
And
We're
Morris
keep,
Day was
keep
devastated
that to
too
ourselves.
because he.
Morris,
He walked out of that room and they couldn't find him for like months.
Yeah, he did. He like disappeared.
Really?
Yeah, because he felt like his band was being ripped apart. Like he never wanted that, and he never liked when bands. Just growing up, he never liked when bands switched members. So the fact that was happening to his band, he didn't like. But the thing was, so after we kicked rocks, we go over to this studio called Larrabee, and Steve Hodge was the engineer. And the only reason we knew Steve Hodge was looking on liner notes on the back of albums. Steve Hodge had done all the Solar Records stuff, so the Whispers and Charlamagne and Lakeside and all that stuff. We were like, that's the dude we want to mix our stuff. So we walk into the studio. We'd never met him. We said, hey, Steve. He says, hey, nice to meet you guys. He says, what's wrong with you guys? And we said, oh, we just got fired from the time. He said, oh, man. He said, well, now, I don't know. I don't think you guys have anything to worry about. He said, because this one here is a smash. And he hit play, and Just Be Good to Me comes on, blasting out these speakers with his mix.
Love that song.
Wow.
And we were like, oh, okay. So it was crazy, man. It was just it was like Hollywood. It was like the Hollywood ending. And actually, he was bluffing. He didn't really fire us. That's the funny thing. Because we would go to the accountant every week and still pick up our checks.
Oh, so okay.
So he never really fired us. But what he did was he tried to scare us, basically, right?
Right.
So, of course, when it wasn't happening, then he tried to divide and conquer us. So he had Jelly Bean Johnson, the drummer in the time, who was probably the only person I know, probably known Terry longer than me. He had Jelly Bean call Terry. And Jelly Bean's like, hey, Prince wants you back, man. And Terry's like, Terry's on the phone, right? And Terry goes, yeah, okay, cool. All right, yeah, what are y'all doing? Okay, Purple Rain, okay, cool. What about Jam? And Jelly Bean said, oh, he done one Jam back. Terry, I swear to God, the phone disintegrated in his hand. You tell that little... I was like, Terry, no, it's cool, man, it's cool. Make the movie, man, it's all good, man. He said, no. Like, it was like that. And that was it. And we did this. We shook hands. We said 50-50.
I love it.
And that's it. And that's the foundation of our relationship. That bound us together ever since.
So did it make y'all close? I mean, of course it made y'all closer, but how was the relationship with Prince after that?
Well, it was pretty sketchy for a while.
Yeah.
But over the years we got our relationship back together, and he's a great friend, man. I love that man.
And he was proud of us too.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you become a boss, you start to understand the dynamics of why people make decisions.
Right.
Whether you agree or not, that's another thing. But I understood what he was trying to do.
What was he trying to do?
Well, once again, he was trying to control the narrative.
Control the sound. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't even the sound, and Jam might think it's that. I don't think it was that. He was trying to control the puppets.
He wanted to be responsible for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
No, because I always told him, I said, dude, if you just would have been a little fair, you could have had all of this. I would have gladly been under PRN Productions.
Oh yeah.
And been in his organization producing. All I just wanted to do was produce and make music.
Right.
But he wanted to control the narrative, and it was like, and I told him once, just straight up, yo, man, no man holds the key to my success or failure.
It's God.
So,
that's right.
You can say whatever you want to say, but I'm gonna do what I got to do. So he said, "Is that a threat?" I said, "No, that's a promise." That's So I walked out of that room right that day, and I said, "I'm going to L.A. Who's coming?" And Jam said, "I'll come."
Yep.
And I said, "Okay, cool. Where we gonna stay? Hey man, we'll find some chicks or something. Yep. We'll figure it out."
Yep.
What we gonna do? I said, "They need us out there. Let's go."
Yep.
And so that was it.
It had to get to a point where there was a mutual respect, though. Like, he had to look at y'all and be like, yo, these brothers are like...
He always had respect for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at that point, he held the keys to things.
And he's stubborn, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, stubborn, I guess you could say.
Well,
sure.
he was used to being in control. Everything was his way or the highway.
Right.
And I get that, but he and I would battle anyway just because we grew up battling,
Terry was the best.
He'd say something that I didn't like, and I'd go get in his face like, okay, say it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
it
was
was
the best
great.
situation for you guys. I mean, everything happened the way that it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
Guys said we're going to put a
Absolutely
dust
it
in the
did.
snow in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And then things just snowballed from there.
We go back to the snow. The snowstorm is the thing I always go back to whenever something's happening that I can't understand why it's happening, and I'm just kind of like, why is this happening? That's what I always go back to, because that was the point with it. I had no clue, why is there a snowstorm? Why are we missing this gig? But the way things turned out, I never question now. Like when things happen, like not the way we think it's supposed to happen, but now I go, yeah, but I know there's a bigger plan. God has a different plan for us. So
Yeah,
that's
and then
what it
when you think of things that happen bad, like you think we got fired, I've altered that
Yes.
in my thinking. I call it that we were freed.
I call it divine misdirection.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I like to call
Yeah,
it.
that's a good way to put it. And I also think too, and freed is interesting too, because it was almost like Prince. There were people that were around Prince that he kept very close. Like he wanted them to be there. The fact that he kind of pushed us out, I think he knew we could fly. He was, he was pushing us out the nest and like, yeah, y'all will be okay.
Out of all the artists you guys work with, who is some of the craziest studio stories? Like, we always tell a story of Mariah Carey coming in here and she had her own light person. She turned off the lights and the light was only on her. And we said, well, you're not going to see us. And she said, exactly, darling. So who is some of those stories? Some of the craziest artists that you work with? Some of the stories like, yo, that's wow.
I don't know about wow, but I know the best studio story I think we probably have is when we were working with Michael and Janet on Scream. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. We flew to New York to do it, and we were set up at Hit Factory, the studio Hit Factory. Mm-hmm. And Michael, of course, brought in his own speakers, like bigger than the studio had, right? He had his own thing. And I remember we went into work. Michael walks in the studio, looking very Michael Jackson-ish, like very, had his buckles and his everything and had hard shoes on and all this stuff. And the plan was Michael was going to go sing his vocal, and then Janet was going to do the vocal after, right? So Michael walks in all mild-mannered and stuff. He walks in the studio. He says, "Hi, guys. How's everybody? Good? Okay, I'm going to go in and put the headphones on, and then, all right, we'll do. Okay, great." And as soon as the song starts, he goes into Michael Jackson mode, like it was superhero mode. He's like, "Dow! Dow!" He's dancing and stomping his feet and clapping and snapping, right? And first thing we're thinking is, oh, man, that's not going to work on the microphone because the microphone's picking up all that noise. But the engineer's just sitting there like, we're like, oh, I guess he does this all the time, right? So anyway, he goes in and he starts singing, "Tired of injustice, tired of skin." Me and Terry are like some girls, man.
And this is the first time you work with Michael.
Yes. This is the first time we ever worked with him.
Go into
And, like,
fan mode, boy.
We went into full fan mode, and for the next 4 minutes, from start to finish, he sings the song. When the song ends, we're just sitting at the board. We're just sitting there. And he goes, "How was that?" And we're like, yeah, Mike. Yeah, that's good. And he goes, "You want me to try it again?" Yeah, Mike. Yeah, give it another try. And we're just like, whew. Janet's sitting between us. And Janet comes in between us, and she just goes, "I'll do my vocal in Minneapolis." Wow. She wanted no part of following that thing. So Michael does his whole vocal, kills it. And then he comes in, he says, "Okay, Jan, you're going up next, right?" And Janet's like, "No, Mike, I think I'm gonna do my vocal in Minneapolis." Right? So she goes to Minneapolis, this is the end of the story. She goes to Minneapolis to do the vocal. She kills it. We send Michael the vocal, and we go, "Mike, how's it sound?" He goes, "Jan sounds really good." I said, "Thanks, Mike." He says, "She sounds really good. Where'd she do that vocal?" I said, "Minneapolis." "Oh, I'm coming to Minneapolis."
Wow.
Really?
So even though that's his sister, he's still competitive. He's like, no, I'm gonna get my vocal even better.
Now, how did
So
Prince?
he did it again?
He did it. He went to Minneapolis and he did his vocal again, and it was funny. We ended up 90% of what we used was what we did in New York, but he still wanted to make sure that his vocal was good because Janet's vocal was really.
Now, how did Prince feel about Michael pulling up to the crib? Did you have to call Prince to get clearance for Michael into Minneapolis?
I think he liked the song. I heard the Control album, I think it was. I remember he drove to my house and threw the CD out the window.
Prince?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty
petty, right?
Yeah. And he used to do What Have You Done For Me Lately in his concerts. He used to do What Have You Done For Me Lately,
song.
and he'd go, "This is my song. I wrote this song."
So why did he throw the CD out the window? I don't know if that's an act of love from Prince or was he being disrespectful? I don't know.
Yeah, it was, an attempt to be disrespectful,
Yeah.
but like,
Did y'all ever
Didn't
fight?
matter.
It seemed like y'all had to get through blows at least one time.
Never.
we never fought,
No.
got close.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
never got there.
Was there ever a real issue between Prince and Michael? Was that a real rivalry or?
It's just rivalry, man. That was back in the day where everything was healthy rivalry. Every artist was against every artist. When you get on the stage, it's my stage.
Yes.
Yeah. So, these are the two biggest black artists
Yeah.
in the world. Like, there's going to be a little rub. It wasn't going to be no kumbaya.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted to be on top. So.
To this day, it's Prince versus Michael Jackson. What do you guys say when you get asked?
It's tough because they're different people.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta. Well, for me, I always got to go with Prince simply because Prince was a musician, and his musical. Forget his singing and all the other stuff that Prince did. Just as a musician, just as a rhythm guitar player. When I was a kid, I remember this. I went to school with Prince in junior high, and I remember there was a band they put together to do a play at the school, right? And I remember we both were in this little keyboard class together, and the guy said, "Who wants to play? Who wants to be in the band?" And we all raised our hand. And they looked at Prince and they said, "Prince, what do you want to play?" And he said, "Guitar." And I looked at Prince and I was like, "Damn, I thought you played keyboards." So then they looked at me and they said, "Jimmy, what do you want to play?" I said, "Drums." And Prince looked at me like, "I thought you were a keyboard player." So we went into our rehearsal, right? Prince plugs in the amp, starts ripping off this guitar solo, like just killing it, right? And I was like, damn, he can play. So we took a break, went to the bathroom. I hear somebody on the drums. I'm thinking it's the band teacher. I come out, it's Prince on the drums, killing the drums. And I'm like going, damn, this little dude is crazy. He hands me the drumsticks back. I didn't even want them anymore. I was like, okay, this dude's on a whole nother level. So the musician of Prince to me is always the thing.
And
to
the
me.
songwriting, because he wrote so many songs for other people
yes.
too.
Oh,
under
come on. The
pseudonym.
time. I mean, listen, the time Prince wrote those songs. Prince and Morris wrote those songs in the time. So when you talk about Cool and Get It Up and all those songs, Prince wrote those songs. Like almost like he was more than one person. He had multiple personalities, and the time was his outlet to do his funk, stuff.
Yeah,
So-
people will probably get upset about this, but it's really not as close as people like to make it seem. You know what I mean? Prince and Stevie Wonder are in the same tier to me.
It's a musician.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as musicianship, artistship, and Michael's, he's great, but it's a different level when you can actually play instruments and stuff like that.
It's a different relationship to me that you have. We always say a different relationship with the notes that you have. Well, we always talk about that with her, the artist Her, that we love so much. Because if you think about when we met her for the first time, she said, I want to get better on playing the bass and the guitar and the keyboards and the drums. Like, I want to play all that stuff. And we were like, okay, cool. That's great. This was 2-3 years ago, maybe. And she's done it. She came down on a drum set, hopped on the guitar, hopped on the keyboard. Like, that's the kind of stuff that Prince would do. And so she has a different relationship with the notes, just in the way she sings and stuff. But Michael, the one thing I will say about Michael, and one of y'all said it earlier, is like, we breathe music. Like, we are music. That is our oxygen. And at one point in time, we always have women in our life at some point say, you love your music more than you love me. And that was always the off switch with me, because I was like, yeah, like I like oxygen more than I love you, actually, because I need oxygen. And that's the way I feel about music. I need music like that. And I finally found a woman that said, no, I get it.
Have you found a woman that you love as much as music?
Yeah, and I've been with her for 27 years.
Hey, okay.
Now, would you
Because
guys,
she didn't contest music.
Yeah, she
Okay.
didn't contest
Contest
it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
She realized what it was.
would you guys do a versus? I know you guys have been watching versus. Would you do one? And who would be the ideal competitor?
I'd love to do Jam versus Lewis, actually. That would be fun. But if it was somebody
Y'all have
outside
too
of the
much stuff
family.
together.
Yeah, y'all got a lot of stuff. It'll still be dope, though. Y'all got a lot of stuff together.
How do you figure out who
I think it's
plays
only
which-
two people that would even make sense, and that's Quincy Jones and L.A. and Babyface.
I think Quincy's out
Gamble
of
and Huff.
Yeah,
Gambling Huff.
Gamble and
Oh,
Huff.
yeah, hell yeah.
Quincy,
Gambling Huff.
Quincy's
Yeah,
another
Quincy's
level.
exalted. He's
Gambling
exalted
Huff.
on the
Hell
level.
yeah.
Yeah, Gambling Huff would be be the ones for us, and we'd
Those are our
gladly
mentors. Yeah, we
we'd
take
gladly
that
take that ass whooping.
You said we take that out?
Yeah, we take it all
Gambling
day
Huff,
and be
yeah.
loving it and
Yeah,
be
I'd
loving
love
that
to
ass
see
whooping.
y'all.
Because
Now
they'd
let's
be
talk
great.
about New Edition for a second, because
Yeah,
earlier you were
let's do
talking
it.
about switching band members,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you guys watched the series, the New Edition docu-series they did.
We
on
did the
that.
music for it.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
we worked on it. Yeah.
And so, what was it like incorporating Johnny Gill into New Edition? How was that?
That was really interesting because the reason that Johnny Gill got incorporated at the very beginning was because Gerald Busby, who was the executive at the time at MCA and Motown, he said, I'm looking for a singer. I want to sign a singer. Who do you guys think I should sign? And he had a bunch of different singers he was trying to sign. And we said, what about Johnny Gill? And he said, Johnny Gill? And we said, yeah, he's young. He's got a great voice, whatever. And he said, well, if I sign Johnny Gill, will you guys produce the record? And we said, yeah. And so anyway, he signed Johnny Gill. Now, we thought that was it. We thought we were just going to do a solo record with Johnny. But then at a concert or somewhere, he was like, yeah, I'm in New Edition now. We were like, what? How'd that happen? So when they all came to Minneapolis to do the Heartbreak album, what we knew was a couple of the guys in the band, they didn't want Johnny. A couple of the people wanted Johnny. And we knew before we could even start any sort of creative anything, we needed to clear the air on that. So we got in our conference room, and Johnny was sitting at the head of the table, and everybody's sitting around the table. And we just said to Johnny, here's the deal, Johnny. You're not going to sing any songs on the album because this is Ralph's group, and that's the sound that everybody knows, and that's what it's going to be. So how you feel about that? And we didn't know what he was going to say. But Johnny said, hey, I'm cool, man. I'm a team player, man. Whatever you need, I'll do whatever it is. Well, as soon as he said that, everything in the room was cool. And actually, Ralph and Johnny turned into like the Mutual Admiration Society because Ralph would go in and sing like every background part, and then everybody would just kind of copy his backgrounds. But he'd go in for hours and, 6 hours and just do backgrounds. And Johnny would sit with us at the board and just go, man, how's he do that? I don't get that. And then Johnny would go in and do his thing, and he'd be quick. He'd be like a half hour maybe, but do his thing. And Ralph would go, man, I don't know how he does that. So it turned into a Mutual Admiration Society, and that's why that record got done. And then even in the way we laid the singles out, we did If It Isn't Love as the first single because that was the most New Edition sounding record. And you don't even hear Johnny on that record. He's on there, but you don't really hear him. But then the next record, Not My Kind of Girl, all of a sudden you hear a little bit of Johnny in there. But then the one that drove it home was Can You Stand the Rain? And that was based on, there was a stylistic song, You Make Me Feel Brand New. And I remember hearing that song for the first time, and the guy came in singing, My Love, oh, na, 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 and I'm like going, who is this? And then Russell Tompkins, the lead singer, came in, Only You. And I said, oh, it's the Stylistics. So we thought that's the way to introduce Johnny.
Wow.
So on a perfect day, right, you hear Johnny and you're like going, who is this? And then as soon as you hear, 'Cause I Need Somebody, you go, oh, Ralph, oh, it's a New Edition. So it was kind of a three-piece prong to get him in and to integrate him in, and the rest is history from there.
I just got chills, man. Y'all niggas produced If It Isn't Love and You Can Stand the Rain. Like, how does that make y'all feel when y'all just out? Like, those are black music staples. You know what I mean? Anywhere. Cookout, family reunions, anywhere. How does that make y'all feel just to hear those records?
Man, I don't even know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
Because, we're always trying to move to the future.
To the next thing. Yeah.
What's next, man? You can't live you say only as good as your next one.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed too, particularly over the last couple of years here of COVID, where people have been listening to music, I think, a little more intensely and taking a little more time to concentrate on music, that a lot of times our love for our songs come from people like you expressing what you just expressed, Charlamagne, where people love the song and they go, man, I love this is my song. We don't hear it like that because we're always listening for mistakes in the production.
Even now?
Yeah.
Always.
We're always listening to production. So there's always, when we listen to a song, we're always listening from the standpoint of, oh, we could have done that better. We should have done that again or whatever. Nowadays, like Saturday Love's a perfect example of that. We did Saturday Love. I came up with a little melody for it. The Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I came up with that. And I was excited. We went to the studio and I said, Terry, I got this song, man. And he goes, how's it go? And in that moment, I felt embarrassed because I was like, oh, this is stupid. And I said, oh, it's just the days of the week, man. It's like some Sesame Street stuff. Right? Yeah. Yeah. But I felt stupid singing it. So when I sang it to Terry, Terry was like, oh, that's dope. That's dope. Okay, let's work on that. Let's work on that. And I was like, cool. So when we finished the song, here's what we thought about the song. Sherelle came in and sang her verse, right? Meanwhile, Terry was trying to write a second verse for Alexander O'Neal. He never could find one, right? So we just said, Alex, just sing what Sherelle sang. Just sing it your way, right? So that song, the two verses are exactly the same. And so people...
So it goes from a man talking to a woman talking to a man.
Yeah, so it's when I think about you, right? That's Sherelle. And then he goes, when I think about you. It's the same lyric. So people are like, oh, that's genius. How'd y'all think about that? It's like, yeah, it's just lazy.
Think of nothing.
Now you got every other rapper repeating their verse in songs.
Yeah. But the cool thing about it was, when the record came out, we put a different single out, right? And the single was kind of going up the charts, kind of cool. And all of a sudden, it kind of stalled, and we were like, well, wait, what happened? And they said, oh, everybody's playing the other song. And we're like, what's the other song? They said Saturday Love. We said Saturday Love. But we didn't even think of that song as a single. So for the longest time hearing that song, it was always like, oh, we never even wrote a second verse on that song. Nowadays, the way people appreciate it, now we get it, and now we love it.
These records I'm sorry, you what did you say?
No, I just said it's a feel-good song.
Yeah, these records that we think are perfect, y'all hear flaws in. So a record like Let's Wait a While, what's the flaw in that record?
Can't think of one in that one.
Okay.
No, that one's pretty good.
That's a beautiful
That one's
song.
solid.
That's also interesting because the album is like an upbeat dance album. What made y'all put Let's Wait a While on there?
Well, we ended, a lot of the Janet albums, we always ended with ballads. We did it, that was really Set With Control, because we ended with Let's Wait a While, and then we ended with Funny How Time Flies. And the funny thing was, I remember when Janet played the album for her mom, when Funny How Time Flies came on, she just kind of faded it out and said, okay, well, that's it, Mom. She didn't want to hear all this stuff. So
how did y'all write Let's Wait a While? Where did that come from?
I don't even really remember.
Yeah, it was just a young love song.
Yeah.
She didn't want to talk about making love.
Yeah.
She wanted to
like Let's Wait a While. Like let's have a relationship first.
Yeah. So it was a good way to do a love song without it being a love song.
Yeah.
Sexual song anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Besides Ice-T, no other rapper came up and said,
MC
hey.
Light.
Big Daddy Kane?
Yeah, MC Light, Big Daddy Kane.
And nobody else said, you know what, I want to do this, and you just said, nah, I don't want to do it? Like your Jay-Z's, your Nas's, your Biggie's.
We work with Nas's Love Is All We Need with Mary J. Blige.
Right.
Did that with Nas. Yeah, that was cool.
That's one of my favorite Mary records, too.
Yeah, thank you.
That
That was great. Now, Mary, I'll tell you a quick Mary story that's really funny. So Mary, when she came to town to Minneapolis to work with us, we assumed she was still working with Puffy, right? So we figured she already had, the sample tracks and the loops and all that stuff, like that kind of stuff.
From the first
we started playing, right. So we started playing her all these different kind of things, right? And she was honest. She was like, nah, I ain't. And we're like, well, Mary, what are you looking for? She said, something that sounds like me. We're like, okay. So we had looped up this Rick James track, which has ended up being Love Is All We Need. And as soon as we put that beat on, her and her sister got up and started dancing around the room. She said, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. She started doing the Mary J dance. We were like, okay, cool. And we were like, oh, well, we thought you already probably had songs like this from Puffy. She said, I'm not working with Puffy. We said, oh, cool. And then we said, okay, well, what about this one? And we slipped her everything. And then she heard everything, and she was like, okay, that's it.
Wow.
We're good. So that was great. But it was fun watching her transform from the kind of mad Mary, like, nah, I'm not feeling this, to like, I love this. What else y'all got? And then when we did No More Drama, that was the one. Because she heard that song, and she said, I'm not ready to sing this yet. This is the perfect song. I'm not going to change a lyric or nothing. I'm not ready to sing it yet, because it was for the Mary album. And she said, but my next album is going to be my title track.
My mantra.
And she's seen that ahead of time. She's seen that.
Oh, yeah.
She's seen it. And she would call us. She'd go, you didn't give my song away, did you? We said, no, Mary, that's your song. We're not giving that to anybody else. She said, okay, cool. And then when she finally sang it and just killed it. It was
That's
like,
genius
took
to
it
have
to a
that
whole nother
vision.
level.
Who's the most genius, like, visionary artist that y'all have worked with? Before y'all came in and even, helped them paint a picture, they already had one in mind.
Wow. Well, visionary artist obviously was Prince.
Prince,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Obviously. That we worked with. Oh man, I don't know. I think in some way they all were visionary in their own ways. I think Usher was definitely toward the top of the list. And Usher, and he should tell the story too, because Usher really changed Terry's life in a very kind of cool way.
Yeah. Usher was one of those artists. I was in a little slump. Like, at some point you think, yeah, I'm done with this. It's like, I did enough.
A producing slump.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel it no more, because people didn't want to work hard. They want to come in. Yeah, I did my vocal. Yeah, I just did one take. Like,
Yeah.
get out of here. You know, you want to. We want excellence. We try to exude excellence. So I just went through a little slump, and I went in the Jam's office, sat on the floor, because I wanted to get real low, because that's how I felt. Say, yo, man, I think I'm tapped out. Like, I can't do this no more. And he's like, well, I'm not. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to gut it out then and see what I can come up with. And then maybe a month later, I started working with Usher. And Usher just basically spun me back in the right direction. He turned my head around, because he was like a sponge. He wanted to know things. He wanted to do things. He wanted to try things. And that's what I need. I need somebody that wants to reach. And it just re-inspired me to be part of the industry again. It's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And he basically pushed that button in me that made me want to do this again. And I really, am grateful for that. So from there on, man, we've been so close.
Yeah.
One of my favorite dudes, man.
Salute to Usher. So y'all look at genius and visionary as two different things.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think you can have the vision, but really the genius is in the execution.
Execution.
Because people all have great ideas. Can you actually execute the ideas?
Yeah. Well, and when you think about genius, I mean, Jan's a genius.
Yes.
Mariah's a genius. Like,
Yes.
she's one of the greatest songwriters. She can see
Oh,
things.
my God, Mariah,
like,
yeah.
she just can figure things out before you. She knows exactly what her audience wants, and she figures it out.
Yeah.
Like you said, Prince, Michael.
Yeah.
These guys. It's so many geniuses.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing we always think of is Terry has a saying. He says a barber can't cut the back of his own head. And what that means is, as an artist is always looking forward and trying to figure out what they want to do, we can go around back and go, yeah, but we got to tap this up this. Get that kitchen a little better back there, So that's the vision that we give. And that's, I think, our benefit, what we give to the artists.
Let's talk about this debut album for a second now.
I love a debut album. I
That
love the
sounds
sound of
so-
that.
I mean, it
love
is
the
what it is.
sound
It's
of that.
volume 1, so
I call it
does
the
that
book.
mean there's a volume 2 coming also?
Yeah.
And how long have some of these songs been in the stash? How many are new? Like, let's talk about it.
Well, the songs are, I will say that the songs are all timeless songs. It's not when they began, it's when they finish. And now is the time to finish them. And yes, the volume 2, I always say, like LeBron said when he went down to Miami, not 2, not 3, not 4. That's the way we feel about what we want to do right now. We're in this section of our life where we want to try to leave music in a better place if we can. And this is the way we're going to do it. It's through this album, through elevating these artists, by making people fall back in love with these artists again, remind them of their greatness, but also remind the artists themselves of their greatness. was really cool when we did the Babyface record. I remember we played him. Like he said, you guys produce it. I'm going to help you write it, but you guys produce it. And so I realized when he heard it for the first time and it was done, he was like, man, it sounds really good. And we said, yeah. He said, no, it sounds really good. We said, your Babyface, what do you think it's going to sound like? But he had never heard himself just as an artist without having to do all the thinking.
Wow.
And as we said, hearing the mistakes.
Wow.
He could just hear himself and appreciate it the way that people appreciate his talent. So I think all of the artists we were able to kind of give that to. Mary called me and was telling, because Terry, worked her to death on the vocal on Spinning on our album, the song Spinning. And she said, you tell Terry Lewis, he killed me on that vocal, but that vocal sounds great. I love that. That's my best vocal, that kind of thing. But that's been the reaction from the artists. They've actually felt back in love with themselves, which we think is really important. So we want to continue to do that. Volume 2 is absolutely already being planned and already kind of in the works.
How difficult is it to tell an artist to go back in and do it again, or it's not good enough, especially when you're talking about multi-platinum selling artists, Grammy Award winning artists, and you're like, no.
But this is Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
But how difficult is it though?
Well, it's not difficult for me because, first of all, I'm friends with these people.
Right.
And, and I keep it light. So, that was all right. One more time. I'm not demanding anything. The only one artist that sometimes you have a problem with, when Shaka Khan turns into Yvette,
yes,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that is
Because she'll be in there, you push the button, and she'll just be quiet.
Right.
It's crickets.
Is it because she sings so strong that it takes a lot out of her?
No, just mentally, she's like,
she just
I just disagree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's fine.
And who wins that conversation?
I just keep pushing the button till she
right. Yeah. You're not gonna outstubborn Terry Lewis.
Really?
I will tell you that.
Yeah. You did one more time.
Yeah.
And I'll wait for it.
Yeah.
Do younger people in the industry seek y'all counsel?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes.
I would think y'all phone would be ringing all the time if they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Not really. We're happy to speak to whoever. I think that's and by the way, that's one of the things, like I said earlier, that Clarence taught us. It's like if you can help people, give them advice or show them the way or, make the way clearer for them, you got to do that. That's really important to do. And he planted so many seeds in us, about that we love doing that. And I always say there will never be another Clarence Avant, but there will be a lot of Clarence Avant type people because of the lessons that he did. It won't just be in one man. It will be in the community of people will be the Clarence. So we're just a piece of that. And where we can help out, we definitely do. But no, we don't. Every once in a while we'll get, somebody will call us and say, hey, can you give me some advice on this? But it doesn't happen a whole lot.
What producers do you like now that you listen to in the last 10 years that you enjoy their production, if any?
Who do we like? Man, that's a great question, and there's a ton of them I do like, but I'm totally drawing a blank, which is terrible.
How would Prince answer that question?
Prince.
Prince would be. I like me.
So just answer it like Prince.
I like me.
I like me. Yeah, but over the years, man, we loved all the guys that were in the game, man. Teddy and
Definitely
Timberland,
all those guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Pharrell just got named
absolutely.
number one of the 21st century, I think it was.
Yeah. No, Pharrell's amazing.
Yeah.
I always love when producers like that. Pharrell was great. I remember when the first time we met him, he started singing "Didn't Mean to Turn You On," and he said, "That's my song." He said, "All my songs, I'm trying to make like this song."
What about when Robert Palmer redid that song?
Oh, that was so cool. It's funny because Robert asked us. He said, "Hey, would you redo this song with me? I want to redo the song." And he sent the demo. And the demo of the song, he's on there. You read me wrong, and we're like going, I don't think that's really going to work. Okay, cool. So we never really. I don't think we said yes or no or anything. We just never answered him. And so then I remember we were in the studio, and he had the Addicted to Love video, right, with all the girls playing the instruments. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, I see a new video with girls playing instruments. And I'm going, oh, man, that was Robert Palmer's new video. That's cool. We're not hearing it. We're just seeing it. And then the little chyron at the end comes on and says, "Didn't mean to turn you on." And we were like, what? He redid the song? So he did it, but he did it with Bernard Edwards, Nile Rodgers' partner back in the day. Yeah, he produced it. And it was amazing. So, yeah, that experience was great. And the one time they performed that song together, we were being honored at the T.J. Martell Foundation, and we actually did an arrangement of the song with Sherelle and Robert together. That was amazing. I don't know whether it's even anywhere on tape.
Was
but
Sherelle
it was
your
amazing.
artist? Because you guys worked with her early on. Was she somebody you discovered? And
Clarence Avant. Clarence Avant.
Clarence,
Yeah. He said,
Like
I got this
Godfather.
female artist, Sherelle. And she was the reason we went back to Minneapolis, because we were living in L.A. at that point. And we didn't like the idea of the studio being so pressurized. Like there was constantly money and, it's time and all that. And we were like, if we go back to Minneapolis, we can just do it and be relaxed. And we went back to Minneapolis, and there was a little basement studio that these guys had. And we were like, literally, we walked in and we Didn't Mean to Turn You On. That was the first song we did. And it was like, okay, this is where we need to be. And Terry said, Clarence told us, when you're driving, don't look at the Hollywood sign because you're going to crash. And that was the analogy to basically say, like L.A. at that point was too big of a town for us. Like we were just a couple of guys from Minneapolis. We need to go back home and just do our craft and not be caught up in the parties and all the craziness.
That's a
That
fact.
was good.
I wonder-
Terry did that. That was a good advice.
I wonder if Clarence took a liking to y'all just because that's the type of person he is, but also because y'all came from a town that wasn't, known for the industry yet, and he came from Climax, North Carolina. You think there was some type of connection there?
It could have been. I mean, I think he liked us because we actually listened.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. It never got bigger than the music for us.
Yeah.
Because we never wanted to be famous. That was never the case. So he just liked the fact that he used to call us two thugs, two hoods
Yeah,
from
you two
Minneapolis.
thugs from Minneapolis. Yeah.
And
And he always never called us all right now. Terry or Jimmy, whichever one you are. Yeah,
That
so-
was his personality, though. He
totally.
like
Yeah.
to be funny.
Yeah, no, totally that.
Got to put you in your place.
Man, I had lunch with him earlier this year for a few hours. Man, I love that brother.
Oh,
man.
there's nobody better, man.
At all.
And the
Well,
music
nobody
industry
better.
can be such a savage, backstabbing place, too.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. But I mean, that's the thing, though. We don't have a desire to do it without each other, and we always have each other's back, and we always say we have no slack, right? We take up each other's slack, so we just do whatever's necessary to get things done. The one other thing I'll say about Clarence, though, real quick, is we made it fun for him. He was at the point where I don't think music was really fun for him. He wasn't having fun doing music, and we were like, no, we're going to make this fun for you, Clarence. You're going to have a great time doing it. And I remember when he came up and we were doing Alexander O'Neal's album, and we couldn't figure out what the single should be. And we're playing him all these songs, and he goes, man, what's that one song, man, that Fade? And we said, oh, Fake? He said, yeah, Fake. That's the single. And we were like, really? Okay, if you say so. And we put that out, went straight to number one. And we were like, cool. But it was like Clarence, he was having fun now. He's picking singles. He's like, and that was great for us to make him have a good time in the music business again.
Terry, you talked about going through a slump for a period of time. Was there ever a time, like as both of you together, where you were kind of like, we just want to exit this?
I don't think there's ever been a time where both of us felt that way.
At the same time.
Or at the same time.
Yeah.
But, the greatest part about the journey is just the life that you live in between and the people that you meet along the way. And we both had, times you see, people say, well, what you guys been doing? Like, yeah, we're doing music always. Yeah. But in the interim we're raising families, raising the kids, building houses, living life, and trying to figure things out just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So music kind of takes a back seat on a few days a week. But we always stay engaged in music because we love music.
What
Have
about
y'all ever had a
Broadway
beef?
play?
Oh, I'm sorry. You go.
I was going to say, what about a Broadway play or something? Because you guys have so much catalog.
Yeah, that would be something we'd be interested in doing. We definitely, it was interesting because when we went in the Songwriters Hall of Fame a few years back, they asked us, they said, what is it that you guys haven't done that you want to do? And Babyface went in the same year we did. We looked over at Babyface and we said, always like to do a song with Babyface. That would be fun. And then we said, and we'd like to get our own album out. So we've checked two of those boxes off. The third thing we hadn't done at that point and still haven't done was we've never toured or done live shows doing our own music. And so we would like to do that in the next year coming when things get back safe to be together. We'd like to go out and perform our own songs. But then when you add to that list, yes, Broadway's a part of our plans. We want to do also symphonic concerts. We have people doing charts for us to do our songs orchestrated because we think that would be kind of fun to do. So there's a whole lot of things still in the future that we haven't done. And we also want to create music's so important to us. I mean, it's grown our kids up. It's taken us around the world. But also the technology side we're really interested in. We're working on some technology that we think is going to be very special to the way people listen to music. So all of those things kind of in the future. And now that our kids are, college age, now we have time to devote. But as Terry said, we wanted to raise our kids in the right way, and go to all those basketball games, go to those dance recitals, make sure that we were there and present in their lives, and we were able to do that. So now it feels great to be able to, kind of be a little selfish now, and be back and get back to the music 24 hours.
Have y'all ever had any conflict amongst each other?
Us?
Mm-hmm.
Never. We've never had an argument, because what I say is an argument is something you're trying to win, right? So let's say we're having an argument and I win the argument. That means Terry lost the argument. Why would I want to be a part of something that he lost at?
Mm.
So we have had disagreements. But in a disagreement, you're trying to solve it, right? You're trying to come to a good solution. Mm-hmm. So in that way of thinking, it's the best way wins. Terry may have an idea, I may have an idea. What's the best idea? How do we get to this destination in the best possible way? And that's the way we look at it. So
I feel like a song.
Never argument.
Right now. Some bars.
Yeah.
What do you? I just got a couple more questions. What do y'all think is missing from today's R&B?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, to me, the thing that always comes to mind is kind of the collective collaboration. Because when you listen to songs in the old days, it was always a group of people, right? It was like when you talk about Earth, Wind, and Fire, you talk about New Birth, or you talk about the albums we grew up with, it was always a great drummer, a great bass player, a great guitar player, a great keyboard player, all playing together. And then there were great arrangers that just did string arrangements and that. So it was a group of people collectively to make something sound big. Now you can sit on your laptop and kind of do it yourself, but still it's coming from one brain, no matter how, spread your brain is. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the thing that probably, if I was going to say something's missing, but I feel like with our album, with obviously like people like her and those kinds of artists that are bringing back the musicality, I think that R&B is actually in a really good place. There's a lot of great new artists that are coming out that I think are cool. So I think we're in a good place, and I think people are maybe paying more attention to it right now. And that's for us, that's so positive, because we're rooted in R&B.
Yeah, the appreciation is definitely up.
Yes.
People want to hear music again that says something, that means something. So, music is the divine art, and we need that spiritual connection to it again. Yeah. And that's good. It's not just about the money. It's never been about the money for us. Right. We actually paid to do this.
Yeah, we were broke. We were broke so crazy, man. But we just wanted to do it. Like, we would fly on our own ticket to L.A., get 24 hours of studio time. The engineers would be looking at us like we were crazy, because they'd go 24-hour lockout. So we'd be like, okay, cool. And they'd be like, well, it doesn't mean you stay in the studio for 24 hours.
Like,
it just means we say, oh, yes, we do. He'd be taking a nap. I'd be up. I'd take a nap. Terry'd be up. We'd drive the engineers crazy. But it was like, that's what we wanted to do. But we were paying for that ourselves. Nobody was paying us to do it. We were paying it. And that's the way we always felt about it. But what Terry says is very important. Music is the divine art. And the reason we call it that is, if you think about what music does for you, I can give you a date. And you can think about, I can say, what were you doing, 1995,
that's right.
On a date? And you could maybe piece it together. But if I play you a song from that date, every memory comes back.
That's right.
It's all there in your head. That's divine. Right. That's time travel. That's the thing that people go, there's no such thing as time travel. Music is time travel.
That's why the worst thing you could do to a new artist is compare them to somebody else, because there's so much feelings that we have attached and memories attached to that older artist. It's like, not that person. No way.
Yes, sir.
He's not. That person's not the next such and such.
Yeah.
Because it don't make you feel anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes you back to that.
And you have to earn that anyway.
That's right.
Like, you can't be compared to something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You might remind me of a voice or something, but there's no comparison until you build that equity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing I miss is talking on records. You know how they, in the R&B songs, they have the little monologue where they're explaining something?
Yep.
I always like that for some reason.
We got a couple of those on ours.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the Spinning song, Mary J. Blige's song, she starts off talking, kind of expressing her situation. And that song's kind of cool on our album because, Mary, you always take the journey with her. Mm-hmm. But that was a point where, you always say you have to know where the North Star is, and then it gives you direction. But a lot of people in court, personally in this time with COVID and all that stuff, you lose that direction of where you're at, and you are literally just spinning in the world. But at the end of the song, she figures it out.
Right.
And I think that's important because people need to figure it out at some point.
And you write these songs specifically for the artists
Absolutely.
who are on the album. Has anybody ever said, I'm not feeling this one?
You know what? Mariah did. Oh, well, she didn't say I'm not feeling this one, but we sent her a track and we said we'd love for you to sing on this track. And she said, I'm not sure if I can do this justice the way you want me to. or something kind of along those
It
lines.
was nice. Nice
Yeah, it was
way
a
to
very
say it.
nice.
Nice
It was
way
a
to
nice
turn it
line.
down.
Yeah. And so anyway, she sent us just a melody and a piano thing. Actually, the Dream that her and the Dream had done together. And like we were listening to it, and I was like, oh, I know what to do with this, because it was just like a ballad. But we thought if we could combine the ballad Mariah, which we know people love, with the bop Mariah, like the Always Be My Baby Mariah, but then get the whistle parts in there and stuff, all this stuff. And we could make everything that you loved about Mariah all in one song. And that's what we tried to do with Somewhat Loved is what the song is called. And that's what we ended up doing. So yeah, that was one where, and then when we sent it back to her, she was like, oh my God, I love this. I got to re-sing this now. This got a beat on it. I'm going to sing it to the beat. And we did, and it turned out really great. So
It did.
Can we play a record off the?
Hold on one second. Who was the most difficult artist to produce and write for?
difficult. Well, on our album or just
Just in general,
overall?
ever.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Well, the one that always comes to mind is the Human League. And it wasn't that they were that, it wasn't that it was so hard, but it was a lot of culture shock, right? Because first of all, you're a white pop British band coming to Minneapolis in the middle of the winter. And they were trying to make a Jam and Lewis sounding album. That's how they ended up doing it. Because John McClane, I mentioned earlier about Control, John McClane said to them, well, if you're trying to make a Jam and Lewis album, why don't you just have Jam and Lewis make the record? So when we did the song Human, there was a little bit of discrepancy because there was a girl singing on the record that was one of our secret weapons, a girl named Lisa Keith, who sang a bunch of our songs on backgrounds. And they didn't like, the girls in the Human League didn't like the fact that this girl was singing on. They said they called her the other girl.
We don't like the other girl.
We don't like that other girl singing on our songs. And then Phil, the lead singer from Human League, was working with was seeing one of the girls. So he comes in the studio the next day and he goes, I just have to say, we don't like that other girl on the track. And we're like, what are you talking about? He said, I just have to say, we don't. And we said, oh, you just have to say. We get it. We called the record company. We said, okay, we're taking the song off the record because if we can't finish it the way we need to finish it, we're not going to do it. They said, no, that's the single. No, you can't do it. And so they let us finish it. But the genius thing in that was when we talk about genius, right, the execution. Terry said, I know how to get the girl on the record. So he had the spoken part where after Phil goes through his whole thing about I'm human, I made mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And then Terry wrote the line and had the girl say, while we were apart, I was human too. And that was the line that sealed the deal because it was like, here's somebody confessing, but you're like, okay, cool. You confess, I'm going to confess right back to you too. Yeah, and that was the line. And that to me made the record. So it solved the problem. The record came out, #1 record, huge record, and it all worked out good. So it was difficult, but it was, some of it was just a circumstance.
Yeah, just a challenge, we won't say.
Challenge.
It wasn't really difficult.
Not difficult challenge. I got two more questions. Can an artist ever recapture their original magic? People be like, oh, we need another Control, or we need another Can You Stand the Rain? Can an artist do that? And is that should an artist even attempt to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe there's a window that goes on all of us. It's like you're in the window, so
and it's
you're
a
firm
movie.
in the window. If you do great things, the window extends, but the window's still moving, and eventually you're not in the window. And then if you stay around long enough, you've done enough good deeds to say every good dog has his day, and a real good dog has 2 days. That window stay around, hang around. Oh, the window. Oh, you get that second peek. And then you fade on off into the sunset. That's just the way life is, though.
And I think and hopefully that's what we tried to capture with our album, is that magic where you fall in love with those artists again the way that you remember when you first fell in love with them. But also, like we say, it's important that the artists fall back in love with themselves like that. When Babyface hears himself, he goes, oh, yeah. Right. When we played the Toni Braxton song, we played it for L.A. and Babyface because we wanted, obviously they produced all the great Toni Braxton songs. And when we played the song, L.A. just said, I feel like a cavity's been filled in my soul that I didn't even know there was a cavity there because I haven't heard music like that. And he said that Toni vocal might be the best vocal I've ever heard her do. And it's like, so that's the way we want to make you feel with our album, is exactly to bring that magic back, make you remember, oh, that's why I fell in love with Mary. That's why I fell in love with Morris Day and the Time. That's what we want to do on our album. So that's what we're aiming for. If we can do that, then hopefully we've done what we accomplished.
I would love to hear you two back in with Janet.
Yeah, we would too.
Volume 2.
Volume 2, girl. You said it. So we'll make it. We'll make it happen.
And the album debuted at #1 too, right?
Yeah.
When it came out.
Yeah, it was #1. That was a beautiful thing, amazing thing. And as we were talking about a little earlier, the appreciation seems to be at an all-time high for music in general, but certainly for R&B music, which is very, that's great for us. So we love that.
My last question, because I know how we look at y'all, icons, legends, all of that seems like understatements. How do Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis see themselves?
I don't know. We're just
two guys making some music,
yeah.
man, doing what we love, man. I don't know. It's like you never do this for accolades. Just like when you get honored, I say I'm honored to be honored, but that's not the purpose for me. If I can make someone's day better, a couple minutes better, just by creating something musically, then I'm fulfilled. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that. People talk about favorite songs all the time. What's your favorite song? And the thing I always say, I don't like to use the word favorite because there's a lot of things that could be favorite. But I always say the song for us, there's two songs that are really important in our lives. Mm-hmm. And I always say that it's a time capsule song. Like if you were going to put a time capsule down, write Jam and Lewis on it, and 100 years later some aliens come down or whoever, they open it up, what would that song be? For us, it would be Optimistic by the Sounds of Black.
Ooh.
Because
I listen to that song 3 times a week.
Yeah. But that's exactly it. But that's why. And that's not about us. God wrote that song. He gave us the pen.
And that's relevant at any time for anybody, no matter what's going on in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, and 1B is Open My Heart.
Yeah, Yolanda Adams. That's 1B. So it's like the fact that we had something to do with those songs, forget that we had anything to do with those songs. If those songs make you feel something where you need to get to, whether it's to cry, whether it's to rejoice, whatever that is, that to me is who we are, and so we don't look at ourselves any different. We're just two people out here having fun and enjoying each other.
How many times have you cried making those songs? Like, because those songs bring back feelings, emotions.
Yeah.
How many times have you wrote a song, produced a song, an artist singing, and just
got
bawled?
emotional?
Open My Heart does that every time I hear it. Every time I hear that song, I get a tear. I produce, I cry on the inside, though.
You got the glasses on.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's why I went. But no, there's definitely songs that like that. But once again, man, it's just really the reaction that people have to it. If it's made their day better, that's the divineness of music. When we say music is the divine art, that's what music is supposed to do for people.
Absolutely.
I make my daughter listen to that song. 4th of July weekend, we on the roof in Isle of Palms. It's me and a bunch of my friends, and we listening to Optimistic Sounds of Blackness, and I'm drunk, and I'm like, that's the problem. Everybody's looking down at their phones. That's why y'all depressed. That's why y'all got anxiety. That's why y'all such pessimists. You got to keep your head to the sky. That's how you stay optimistic.
Yep.
That one line, just keep your head to the sky. Yeah. They can get anything past us now because everybody's looking down.
Yeah, very true. That's very true. Yes, sir.
That's an amazing record.
How many kids dress up as Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for Halloween?
Oh, a few. That is pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Let's get into a record. What y'all want to hear?
Oh, man, this was a great conversation, man.
Yeah,
when you talk to brothers like y'all, or even the Clarence, Avant, like the divine art is the right term because you feel God. Like it's more than music. It's more than production. Like y'all came here and really fulfilled y'all purpose in the world in a real way and empowered so many people and poured into so many people, man. So this is just an honor to talk to y'all, man.
Appreciate you, brothers. Absolutely.
It's an honor to talk to y'all.
It is, absolutely.
We're fans of y'all. We're fans of the show. It's such an honor to be here. And I always say at this point in our lives, there's less first times that can happen, right? Mm-hmm. Because, when you're young, it's all first times.
Right.
So for us to be at our advanced stage and to have first time on the Breakfast Club, first time having a number one debut album, first time having a Jam and Lewis album, period. Like that's all new stuff for us, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come.
Well, we love to help artists on the come up. First time with first
I'm feeling
albums.
good then.
Hey man, I told them I said we want to be the oldest, best new artist at the Grammys, and they said, well, you already won Grammys, so you're ineligible. I was like, okay, cool.
So what y'all want to hear? What record y'all want to go into?
Let's play Optimistic, man.
No, we're off the new album.
From the new album.
I'm sorry.
Play that anyway.
Okay,
Calm down.
I'm sorry.
From the new album. Well, I'll tell you. Since we're in New York, I would say Mary J.
That's what I was going to say, that Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, we got to
Gotta
go
play
spinning
spin.
Mary J.
Well, let's get into spinning right now. We appreciate you, brothers, for joining
Man,
us.
thank y'all,
Thank
man.
y'all so
Thank
much,
you.
man.
Thank you. I'm
y'all,
glad
man.
y'all exist, man.
Jimmy
Glad
Jam,
y'all
Terry
exist.
Lewis, featuring Mary J. Blige is spinning. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.